So what's up people and welcome to the Mission 70 discussion of Spy Family. So Mission 70 came out a few days ago, and as always I will leave a link to this mission that's currently being shown on the publisher's official website, Manga Plus, for free to the North American audience. So if you're interested, I would go take a look at it before they pull this mission back. Okay, so before I start, I do want to apologize. I haven't been uploading videos for a while, and that's because I was out for a week on a business trip. And so I'm back, and that is the only reason I haven't been uploading videos. So just my little apology with that. Okay, so despite my business trip, I am back and I did get a chance to read Mission 70. And I have to admit, this chapter really shows how well Tatsuya Endo moves this story. I feel that the plot is moving very well, and it really follows the look and feel of Spy Family. And that is something that I really enjoy, and I think it's something that many people enjoy about this story. Yes, it's funny. Yes, it's wholesome. Yes, it has an intriguing espionage sort of story. But it's not any of those one single situations that makes this story good. It's the combination, and when you put it all together, the sum is greater than the combined individual points. And Tatsuya Endo has a really good ability to find balance between the tension and the comedy. You saw that in the beginning in Mission 69 when this story started, there was a tremendous amount of comedy because it was focusing around the kids. And it was only at the end when you started seeing the tensions rise as the terrorists hijacked the bus. And of course in Mission 70 you see this escalation going. There's a lot more tension in Mission 70 than in Mission 69. And yet within there you still see the comedy in the way you expect it to be in Spy Family. In many situations when somebody draws a comedy, even if the theme of the story is something like spies, the comedy overwhelms it, and the spy is only there to make a convenient environment to which the comedy is told. And because of that, as much as it can be a spy story, the entire story becomes hilarious, and there's really not a hint of tension. And then, of course, there's the other side where you see spy stories where there are interesting characters and you might get kawaii, cute characters that come out, but it's focused so much on the plot and the espionage that you really don't feel the humor or the lightheartedness of the story. Tatsuya Endo seems to be able to find this balance, which is very interesting because the two types of themes, comedy and tension, are somewhat conflicting. And you would expect that if you don't do it properly, one will overwhelm and beat down the other. And yet you see the story move along where the tension and the plot is actually working quite well, and you see the environment of the story work the way you would expect a Cold War spy story to be, and yet within there you see all the weird antics, the humorous situations that Anya and her crew bring. And this mission, along with Mission 69, really shows it well. 69 was a very hilarious chapter because it focused on the antics of the kids, but as the terrorists came on board, you see that there is greater and greater tension building up. And so Mission 70 starts where Mission 69 left off. The school is realizing that their bus has become hijacked. And so Mr. Henderson goes into full gear and starts looking into the strategies of saving the kids. He's trying to keep this information away from the paparazzi and the news. But in the meantime, of course, since the Ostanian secret police were looking for the Red Circus, they are immediately informed of the situation, and so you know that they will go into action. But in the meantime, of course, since the secret police are constantly under surveillance by the WISE organization, we find out that Sylvia Sherwood learns that Anya and Damien has been kidnapped. Now, of course, this is another part that is very interesting. Tatsuya Endo is really starting to spread out much of the world. It's not just about Ostania versus Westalis. there are many factions that come out that are somewhat independent to all of this group. And in this situation, the Red Circus turns out to be a terrorist for the country of Ostania rather than Westalis. So originally, Sylvia was gonna brush it off and let Ostania take care of it until, of course, she found out that Anya and Damien are in trouble. And knowing Sylvia, she will come up with a plan to rescue those two. But what we find out is that Lloyd is on a mission, so he won't be able to participate. Now, I don't know if that will really ring true throughout this entire story, because if Lloyd does find out, he may wrap up his mission where he is and come to the rescue of Anya. We don't know yet. But to some extent, that might be okay, because then that may focus some time around Yor. We get so much focus on Lloyd that it is always refreshing when there are stories about Yor. And so far, some of these stories that revolve around Yor has been quite intense. The cruise ship story was very, very good. And now this one may turn out to be another one of her actions. So I am really looking forward to seeing what happens. Now, in the meantime, of course, the kids are already starting to move. And we're starting to see very interesting characteristics from all of these kids. Bill Watkins does turn out to be the big tank of this entire group. And even psychologically, he tries to keep the group calm, despite he himself being in intense fear of the situation. But because he knows he doesn't want to disappoint his father, he will do whatever he can as a good soldier. Now, in the meantime, of course, Damien is trying to think up of a situation to resolve this. And of course, Anya is using her powers to overcome this situation. Now, this is very hard for her because whenever she turns on her telepathy, she gets hit by all the thoughts that are coming around her. And right now, it is full of a lot of anxiety by all the other kids that are around her. So it's starting to really bring down Anya. But she continues to go on. And because the kidnappers are trying to take them to a secret location, she continues her telepathy to find out if she could find clues of where they're going. Now, in the meantime, of course, Becky, yeah, she remains Becky, the I'm not afraid of this situation sort of character. And she tells the Red Circus that her father is an important person and he will be very angry if they don't let all the kids go. But of course, we find out that that was the very reason the Red Circus hijacked this bus, was to gather the children of so many important people. But through this situation, we find the escalation because Anya does get a clue of where they're being taken. And so between Becky and Anya, they come up with a situation of trying to write a note and then throwing it out the window. But they can't figure out how to do it without attracting attention of Billy Squire and the Red Circus. And that's around the time when Damien notices that they're doing something in secret, and he starts worrying that they're going to create a greater problem. And so he starts communicating with them. And through that communication, which is very hilarious, Damien realizes that maybe he could create the distraction so that that note can be thrown outside of the bus. And that's when we find out, yes, it's Tatsuya Endo again. This is not Go-Go 13. This is not Fable. This is not even Cowboy Bebop. It's all about the mixture of the humor within the tension. And the only diversion that Damien can come up with is that he needs to take a dump. A really big dump too. And he starts becoming extremely descriptive of his situation, which of course makes Becky and Anya go, what the heck is that guy doing? But of course, since he created the diversion, Anya decides to throw that canister with the note outside. And as much as Damien did his best to create the diversion, Billy Squire notices Anya doing so, and he ups the escalation. So now we see this escalation of the story going. This is going as you expect in many of these high tension situations, where each step along the way makes the peril even greater. And in this one, the chapter ends with Billy Squire putting an explosive vest onto Anya and telling her that if anything pisses him off, he will blow her up. And so this terrifies all the kids, and this of course terrifies Anya. But from my perspective, as much as this escalation is going and puts Anya in greater peril, I'm sitting there going, wow, you're digging your grave further, Billy Squier. Because you know that if Yor ever finds out what is happening, she is gonna go ballistic. And if Yor goes ballistic, yeah, this can turn out to be seriously bad for the Red Circus. Because Yor doesn't strategize. She just goes brute force into the most simple idea that she could come up with. And knowing Yor, I could see her thinking this way, in that there is no way the terrorists would be able to kill Anya if none of the terrorists had any arms left to pull the trigger. Yeah, and if this was any other writer, such as for Chainsaw Man or for Berserk, yeah, I could see images of Yor ripping their arms out of their sockets. But because this is Tatsuya Endo, you know it's not going to go that far. But you still know that Yor may go ballistic if she finds out, and I got a feeling she's going to find out soon. Once again, Lloyd is on a mission, and Tatsuya Endo probably wrote it that way so that other characters can come in. And so the escalation left with a cliffhanger, and the cliffhanger will probably create even a more complex story as it goes along, because we're still only in the first 2 chapters. We haven't reached the peak part of this story yet, and it'll take a while for this entire plot to be constructed. And since Tatsuya Endo does such a good job in constructing these plots, I'm really looking forward to seeing how complex it'll become and who will come to their rescue. So Mission 70 was really good in my opinion. It really brought about the complex nature that is necessary when you see one of these hijacks, and it creates the peril that is growing and the difficulty and the challenges that become even harder as the children try to do whatever they can to survive. But since this is Spy Family, you know that even with the future chapters and even in the intense action that may come up in the future, there's always going to be hilarious moments. And considering Becky, Damien, George, and Anya are all in one location, you could create some pretty hilarious situations for the story. So I am looking forward to chapter 71, and when it comes out, I'll bring out another video, and I hope you join me at that time. But this is the Mission 70 discussion for Spy Family. If you saw it, what'd you think of it? If you could leave your comments, it would be greatly appreciated. And until the next episode, happy manga reading, and as always, enjoy a nice day, everyone.